Good morning guys, we're out here to do a bit of a quick walk through the Hilux, so let's get into it. May as well start up the front here. So for lighting, I have talked about this before in previous videos. They're steady 7-inch Type X Sports. Landed here in Alice Springs about $450, so pretty cheap, and they seem to be holding together well. I've probably done 5,000 Ks with them. So I haven't had them forever, but they are doing well. The light output is really good, I reckon. I had ARB AR21s on a previous Hilux, and they were really good also. They did probably 100,000 Ks on really rough roads and held together well, like through all the corrugations and everything. But they are about $1,200. So I decided to go with these just because they're a bit cheaper, and you know, there is a lot of good feedback out there on them, and a lot of good reviews. Easy to fit yourself. It's a plug and play setup, so almost anyone could fit these, no problem. And yeah, I reckon they're pretty good gear. Onto the bull bar. It's just a Toyota commercial bar. I did have a Toyota premium bull bar on the previous SR5, which was a nice bar, but I decided to go this route purely because it's a bit cheaper. And I noticed when I was in the Toyota showroom here in Alice Springs, the premium bar, particularly this part here, is a lot thinner. So I had to actually fit a plate in under here when I mounted the spotties, or else this would have just cracked out. But on this bar, this is a bit more thick. So I've just drilled straight through and mounted these, and it's plenty solid enough. So bit of a better built bar, I reckon, and it's a bit cheaper, so it's a win-win really. It probably doesn't look as good as a premium bar, but it's sort of grown on me and I don't mind it. But it's practical, you know. It's there to protect the car, and that's what it does, so it's pretty good. Just black sun razors, 16x8 I reckon they are, with a positive 10 offset. Mickey Thompson Baja ATs. A really good tyre. I've run a lot of different brands, mud terrains and whatnot, and I just go for a 10-ply tread, 3-ply sidewall. You just don't really stake the sidewalls with a 3-ply. I've run 2-ply sidewall all-terrains before, and you're just constantly puncturing them with sticks. And yeah, so they're a very good tyre, and they're pretty aggressive for an all-terrain, but not as aggressive as a mud terrain, so you get better fuel economy and that sort of stuff. Very good tyre. And as far as suspension goes, I'm just running a Dobinson 2-inch IMS lift, and I've fitted that not long ago. Probably, it's been a couple of weeks, but I've already done a few thousand Ks with it, and it's pretty good. I'm happy with it. I wasn't too happy at the start. It sat too high and it was way too stiff. And I sort of knew that when I left the mechanic. I had a chat with him about it, and it seemed like it wasn't going to have enough droop, and it didn't. I went out bush and there was just no droop, and the suspension was topping out. And like if you jumped on the front, it barely moved. So I got him to adjust the preload, I think about 5mm, and it's so much better now. So I am happy with it. Seems like good gear. But again, it's the longevity. We'll see how it goes on these rough roads. I've had some suspension that just blows out very quick, like Tough Dog. Lasted probably 20,000 K on my Land Cruiser and just blew out. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. Alright, so we'll move on to the 12-volt system next. It's nothing too crazy. It's just the system that Toyota fits to these Hiluxes. It's running I think this is a 60 amp hour battery, which I did ask Toyota for 100 amp hour, and they've gone and put 60 in, of course. Now, it does the job. All I'm running is a Engel fridge, which is a pretty low draw, and also an ARB awning that has a strip light in it that's a low draw as well. So it does me fine. You know, I can pull up for a night and run the fridge and light and do whatever. If I'm anywhere for more than, you know, that one night, I do have a Ridge Rider solar blanket, which is a 200 watter, which does the job no problem. Like, it'll top the battery up in no time at all. So it's running a 20 amp Red Arc charger, which it's a Toyota Red Arc charger. Toyota linked up with Red Arc and made their own gear, I think, for when they do their own installs. And yeah. So here inside the cab, all the 12 volt system basically runs is this fridge, and like I said before, LED strip light on the awning. Just comes through here, 2 sockets, fridge socket and just your basic SIG socket. It does me fine, you know, I don't have any huge power needs. I do run power tools, and I just take a few batteries with me that are always fully charged. I'll probably upgrade to a Land Cruiser next year, and I do want to do a bit of a canopy fit out, but nothing crazy. Just like a half canopy with maybe an inverter, just so I can charge batteries on the go. But that's about it. I'm not interested in a, you know, $10,000–$15,000 setup. This does me fine, and I like to keep it simple, just for the fridge and light. For my fridge, I'm just running a Engel Eclipse, 38 litre, I reckon they are. I've actually got 2 of these, and I decided to go with this model just because they were a lot cheaper than the metal case original Engels. They've actually come up in price a lot now. I think they're 1,000 or 1,100 or something like that. Anyway, they're a very great fridge. They've bounced around in the back of the ute, and I've now got it inside. The only downfall, and I'm a bit disappointed, is both fridges have broken the compressor mounts inside. And Engel did warrant the first claim that I made. I haven't worried about making a claim on the other fridge that I've got because I'm just lazy, but they did warrant it and they did fix it, but it didn't take long for them to break again. I did a bit of research and found some YouTube videos of blokes talking about it, and apparently it's pretty common if you use them on really rough roads like I do out here, but they never fail. So they'll break the mounts, but they always work. And this is just what I've read and watched from blokes talking about it. And but yeah, I do have to tell you about that. It is a bit of a downside. So I'm a bit disappointed, but you know, it always runs. So we'll keep them for now and see what happens. So as far as communications goes, I'm just running a basic handheld, actually, UHF system. It's a 5-watter. I didn't go hardwired because I wanted it to be versatile. I can take the handheld out of the car, run up a hill if I need to contact someone or whatever. So I've just kept the little antenna that comes with the GME UHF. So it's a bonnet mount antenna I decided to go with. I did have the antenna mounted here on my previous Hilux, but it's sort of annoying looking through the windscreen and seeing it all the time. I mean, it's not too bad, but I just thought I'd try something different. Also, with it mounted up here, when you're on tight, twisty tracks and there's heaps of branches and trees, the antenna does hit them a lot. It never broke, they're very strong, but again, up here it's just out of the way a bit better. I've brought the cable through here along the firewall and just straight through the firewall, pretty standard really. I'll show you the mount. It's just a bonnet mount from GMF 4x4, and it just bolts straight to the bonnet hinge underneath there. It's made out of 5mm steel, painted black. It seems pretty sturdy. It does move a bit, but you know, you probably do want a little bit of movement. Probably don't want it too stiff. It hasn't cracked or anything, and pretty happy with it so far. It's just running a 3 dBi antenna. I was thinking about getting a 6 dBi, like the big broomsticks that you can get, but obviously they're good for long and flat country, which we do have a lot of that here in Central Australia. But to be honest, I do like the look of these a bit more. But more than looks, it actually does work really well. A lot of the country I drive through is hilly, so it works well there. But I've actually found that even on the flat country, they do work really well. And if I get up on a hill, I can hear people talking for miles. I'm pretty impressed with it actually. They do well. As far as first aid goes, I just run a survival first aid kit. I reckon they probably make the best first aid kits on the market. I decided to get this waterproof bag with it as well. So it just goes in there. Basically you roll this up, clip this together and you can float that across the river or whatever if you need to, and it's really handy. As far as the kit goes, it's fully comprehensive. I can't quite remember what this kit is. I think it's the 4-wheel driver's kit, maybe. But you've got everything and anything you'd ever need. Got a smart snake bandage here. It really is full of everything. They're just such a good kit. So get onto them if you need any first aid stuff. I've got this first aid book as well off their website, which pretty much explains anything you'd ever need to know in there. Any emergency response stuff, which is good to have on the go. You know, if anything ever happens, you can just flip this out and it'll walk you through anything that you may need help on. I've got a fire extinguisher back here as well, pretty standard. Everyone should always carry one of these. I'll walk you through this king chrome box I got. So in this kit, you've got a comprehensive set of sockets. So 1/4 inch, 3/8, 1/2 inch. Pretty much all I'd ever need anyway. And then spanners, imperial and metric, from 6mm to 24mm and 1/4 inch to 1 inch. It's all really good gear, I reckon. And then just there's a riveter and tin snips and pliers and all that good stuff. Circlip pliers. Screwdrivers, Allen keys, all the good gear. Hammers and chisels, punches, that sort of stuff. It's just good to have a kit that's this comprehensive that, you know, usually any job I pull up to, I've got it covered. There's always something in there that I'll use. And then just a bunch of miscellaneous stuff, pretty much. So that's their off-road field service kit. It's a 452 piece. I think you can get like a 426 piece. I decided to go with the one with a bit more gear. I paid it off over the last year. I think it was 3,800. They're about $4,000 now. And yeah. So on the back here, I've got this dog box. It's a good bit of kit. It's probably one of my most favourite things I've bought. It's just nice and solid and does the job. So I usually just chuck my swag in here and a petrol jerry can. If, you know, sometimes I need petrol out bush to start generators and whatever. I also carry a diesel jerry can around as well, and I'll explain why in a minute. So onto the back here, I run, this tank here is for diesel. It's 90 litres with about an 85 litre usable capacity. I didn't really want to run anything with a pump on it, just because it's, you know, it's more that can go wrong when you're out remote, and I didn't really want to worry about that. Yeah, so she's just gravity fed. All I do is take this down and stick her straight in the inlet here, and she fuels up. Now the reason I've got that jerry can is if I'm out bush and I have to like fuel up the grader, or some of our generators sit a bit high, obviously this won't gravity feed into something that's higher than that outlet on the tank. So I'll just fill up a jerry can and then fill up the generator or grader or whatever with the jerry can. In this side of the dog box is where I keep kangaroo jack, shovel and that sort of stuff. Moving on to this bad boy. Now this pretty much just keeps different tools, fittings that I need for pipelines and whatever out on the station. If we have any pipeline leaks, this is what I use to fix them. Power tools down here. Or an assortment of stuff really. Got a compressor over here. And if we go on a big trip or head off camping or whatever, I'll pull most of this stuff out. It doesn't take me long at all. And this is where I'll put some of the camping gear and whatnot. I've got the Max Tracks mounted up on this box. Just a simple, easy way to do it, and easy to get to for when you're stuck. I do rate them. I've used them a couple of times. I've had them for probably a good, I don't know, 3 or 4 years now. Originally I bought them when I had my Land Cruiser, and they've got me out of the shit a few times, so definitely worth the money, I reckon. As far as shelter goes for camp, I'm just running an ARB awning. It's a 2 by 2.5 meter, I reckon, with a LED strip light up the middle. I did show this, I did mention it in a previous video. It's a good bit of kit, it does the job. I really do like the light that's built in. That's all I use for camp lighting. I don't really run a crazy setup, and we went to Lorella Springs last year for a week, and this is all we ran. It was my previous Hilux, but it was a very similar setup. Just a swag, camp chairs, a table, and an awning. And I do like that simple setup. You don't need to go out and spend $100,000. It works for me, you know, but each to their own. The only downside that I've had with this awning would probably be the fact that a lot of the rivets that attach this to this aluminium backing have broken. You do have a bolt this end and that end with a nylock on the back, so I don't think it'll ever completely break away. But yes, I have had some broken rivets and I've had to replace them. I don't really care that much. Like, I'm assuming maybe most of them do that. You've got to keep in mind I always am on rough roads, but I feel like that's something that should be mentioned because it is what happens. So last on the list, the rear diff lock on these, and I'm pretty sure it's most modern day utes, the diff actuator and all the electronics sitting on the front of the diff housing, it's really susceptible to damage. And where I drive out here, like just out bushing on the station and whatever, a lot of the fence lines and that aren't well maintained, and there's huge rocks and sticks and all sorts of stuff. And on my previous Hilux, I actually damaged 3 diff lock actuators. So I actually had to get 3 diff carriers replaced on that thing. And that's a whole nother story. It was a big mess. They do have a bash plate mounted to the front of them, but the standard Toyota one is, you know, it's just standard gear, so it's very thin. So when a rock hits it, it'll just push back straight into the actuator and break it. So yeah, it's definitely a good modification that I would recommend to anyone if you are going out bush and doing some serious work. It's probably not too bad if you're just doing the standard stuff on beaches or hitting up, you know, standard graded gravel roads and whatnot. But it's from Custom Off-Road Accessories, and they've been pretty good to deal with, so I definitely recommend. Well guys, that's the end of that episode. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll catch you on the next one. Thanks very much for watching. Morning guys, we're out here to do a bit of a rig rundown through the Hilux. Probably nothing too crazy, but just Hang on a minute. So onto the 12 volt system next. I'll start that again. I'm pretty impressed with it actually. They do well. Yeah. They're a real good fridge. I decided to go with these. So as far as first aid kit, your dogs. I also carry a diesel Jenny around. Oh, fucking diesel. So it's done. So, but yeah, he just said definitely a couple of days, but definitely by the end of the week. So last on the list is probably this. Nah, fuck that. Wait, I'll climb this.
You won't do it?
In 2-wheel drive, bro.